I appreciate that reminder. Um, One of the things that I just read this morning that really captured my attention is that sunrises and sunsets have a tremendous impact on us. It gives us peace and awe. It was just something I read. I have a news feed called Nice News. So here we are today looking at a beautiful sky. Welcome. I wanted to let you know, just take a minute on how this got started. It's what happens when an executive gets together with a rabbi and starts talking about how great life is and how to make it even better. And they talk for 10 years. Next thing you know, they have groups of people that are joining their discussion, and they write a book called Peace, Harmony, and Joy, but with that caveat title, Less Stress, More Joy, the Peace, Harmony, Joy approach. This then evolved into the Peace, Harmony, Joy Alliance. And somewhere along the line, this is how I met the author, one of the authors, Scott Frank. We just happened to be biking over 5 days, the Bourbon Trail, and started comparing notes about what makes a good life and how to make it better and how to make it fuller and how to help others with that same experience. And next thing you know, I'm the vice chair of Peace, Harmony, Joy Alliance. Most of my time is spent on helping others, either nonprofit organizations. I don't do as much coaching now, except on a pro bono basis with nonprofits, but I do travel and I do surround myself with things that I love. You can see the picture right on the screen is the one right here. So I got a little peace, harmony, and joy all around me to start my day. So welcome, I'm glad you're here. I wanted to let you know that our philosophy is just a starting point of peace, harmony, and joy. I'll review our harmony definition, our focus of the day, but really I need you to know that the definition is written in pencil. This definition is for you to use as a starting point so that you can build harmony within your own world. So we believe that harmony is the opposite of confusion and chaos, that it's living the life we want, that what we aspire to do and what we do are in sync. Harmony comes when we recognize that we use our gifts and talents and passions and interests and really make the most of them. And there's a second part of harmony that isn't noted here, and that is the harmony that we have with others, and therefore expanding that to the harmony with our community as well. And we really believe that when you work on harmony within yourself, you can open up so that you can have better relationships with others, and that creates a ripple effect in communities and the world at large. So when we think about harmony, we're going to think about harmony within ourselves and harmony with others as well. And joy is that opposite of happiness, of sadness and suffering. Peace is the opposite of stress. Today, we're going to focus on harmony within yourself and with others. So this is the beginning of that ripple effect that I mentioned, that we really think the model of success, or maybe I should say improvement, what our intentions are, is to start with self, and that then radiates out to others. What is the harmony that I create within myself? What is the harmony that comes back to me because of my small adjustments and finding more harmony? How does it impact my family, my close friends, my community, the team that I work with, groups around me? And therefore, how does that ripple out to the larger group, my community, people of the world, nature, the planet? So the seed comes from within us and then ripples and grows outward from there. So we want to share our intentions of harmony. And I have a little sheet music behind me to remind me of the goal of the day. And it's in sync with orchestras or choirs. But we have 5 intentions when we think about harmony. And those intentions are really spending some time thinking, that's my fault, pardon me. Oh, me. Really thinking about what is important to seek harmony, why it's important to seek harmony. We also want to spend some time on learning how to find harmony within oneself. Give you a couple of tools of discussing the 4 C's of finding harmony with yourself and with others. Appreciate the importance of listening well, and I'll tell you about my listening role model, and understanding how gratitude and forgiveness and gratefulness really has an impact on harmony from within and harmony with others. So first we have a task for you. I call this a little spider web, and if we were here together and had all 3 sessions, we might be looking at all aspects of the peace, harmony, joy model. And on this spider web, what I'd like you to think about is, how are you internally? Where are you now when it comes to harmony from within and with others? If you were to enumerate that, what number, what score would you give yourself? 0 to 1 being the lowest scores, 10 being the highest scores. Would you take a moment and write that in chat, but don't hit enter yet. Just put the number you would select and put that in chat. I'll give you a minute.
They're coming in, Jane. We have 3 9s already.
Okay. 9s.
Yeah.
Nobody needs this message today. It may enhance what you're already doing well. That's fantastic. I mean, that doesn't happen very often, you should know. So let me just give each of you a virtual hug on that. Our expectations just went up with those high scores, but not all of us are there. And in any given time, when we think about harmony with self and harmony with others, there's a story behind there. There's something that takes some of it away, or, nicks our armor or tarnishes us a little bit. So part of the harmony thought is that fulcrum of finding balance, of knowing when you may not be on your game, or you may be communicating with someone off your game. So congratulations for those of you with high scores.
All 7s, 8s, and 9s, Jane.
Dang.
Yeah.
And realize that each of us are on that continuum. So thanks for sharing. So, okay, we have a small group today, which makes it much easier for sharing. So feel free to unmute and add your thoughts on why is it worth making space for harmony with self and harmony with others. Why?
I think they can do it in the chat or to unmute, Jane. Is that
Chat or unmute, either one.
Yeah. So enhances the quality of life.
That's what I just wrote. Thank you, Bob. Yeah, right. My life just gets better, more enjoyable, given I'm in it and living it. That's my commitment and my responsibility.
And you're a great role model for that, Michelle. Thanks for including it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's
Other
us live our best lives.
Okay.
I would also add that it allows us to be open to appreciate and be grateful for what we have.
There's an interesting, these are all great reasons to make space, sometimes move away those disharmony, That's not the word I'm looking for. Those that static in the world, all those distractors is the word I was thinking of, that take the harmony away from us. We also
Harmony
know
makes life go smoother, Jane.
yeah, makes life go smoother. And the research backs up everything that you've said, that it also helps our brain. It also helps our body, reduces those negative hormones like cortisol, creates space in our brain, allows us to think more clearly, to understand ourselves and communicate with others. It makes us more comfortable for openness with others, and it prevents that conflict. Or maybe it doesn't always prevent it, but it makes us aware that people disagree and that's okay. We don't have to be in that polarization and that negativity around us, that we can actually be an element of harmony individually and with others. So harmony within ourselves, I got to tell you, I can move these two circles around and feel just as comfortable with either one of them, because we know that it happens when we have a sense of being comfortable and confident. When we think of harmony, and when we talk with Yossi and Scott, the authors, they really focus on us individually using our skills and talents and gifts to the best of our knowledge and using them to the fullest. And sometimes I find that, I know for me, I get insecure and I question some of those gifts. But when they fall into place, I'm so much more comfortable in doing what I love to do, even if I don't have all the skills needed to do whatever that task is, or whatever that work is within the workplace or the project, that I have to pay more attention in my mind to find those skills and interests and gifts in other people so that we can really complement one another. And that's what inclusion is all about. Looking at that, having diversity of thought, but having complementary thoughts as well. So that means that we have to invest time with that self-reflection. And, all of us have been in corporate, I can't say all of us have been in corporate America, but many of us have been in companies where we got a Myers-Briggs assessment, or we got an insights assessment, or we got a strength finders assessment, or we got colors assessments, or we got animals. Have any of you been there? Would you unmute and say out loud, have you done these kinds of assessments yourselves?
Yes, absolutely.
And it's always, I've probably done 5 or 6 in my professional lifetime, give or take. Well, they are a snapshot and they are helpful, but it's not the sole item. Once again, I look at them as written in pencil, that it is a catalyst to help me self-reflect. It is a catalyst for help me understand the feedback I get from others or solicit feedback from others. It makes me more introspective. And also what I find in working with teams, as I have in many parts of my life, I go back to sort of sharing that 30-second commercial of my skills and asking other people for that as well. So once again, we've got that diversity of thought and inclusion of looking at complementary. I have to invest some of that time myself. I have to be really honest on sharing those things that I'm good at and like to do, and the things that I don't like to do and that I might not have skills in. And I will tell you that each of us have those 4 categories, and what you may do really well, you may not like to do, right? So that's part of the harmony with ourselves, is understanding all of that material that is fed to us from the world, and really reflecting and getting introspective so that we can be okay with our temperament, our values, our experience. I hope that you'll invest a little bit more time on that if you have those resources available, so that you can refine in pencil. We change over our lifetime, but continue to refine that view of yourself. So this is the participation part of the activities today. And I would love for you, with your voice or through chat, to think about harmony. Pardon me. My lemon ginger honey is helpful. It's harmonizing me with my voice. So when you think of harmony, and particularly for those of you who gave yourself some high skill level on where you are now, what are some of your strengths? What do you enjoy doing? What do other people think you're good at? What are your challenges? And said another way, how would you define harmony with yourself using these questions as cues? I'll give you a minute to jot this down on a separate piece of paper, in hopes that you'll share, those of you who are comfortable will share that with us with your voice or with chat. So let me give you a moment so you can look at the screen and think about your definition of harmony for yourself.
I think Michelle has her hand raised, Jane.
Great.
Thank you. I just want to share briefly that I'm about to take a long trip to Dubai from New York. And I was initially, oh my gosh, how did I not see how long this trip was going to be? And I was into shame and blame. And I was like, what am I going to do now? How am I going to tolerate this with so little sleep? I'll stop there as the initial reaction. I mean, sleepless nights. What did I do? What did I do? And I just want to end it by saying, that was my challenge. And I just said, how can I make this the best? And I've decided to make the 21-hour trip, because I'm going to have a holdover in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. I'm going to make it a retreat. I've now identified, I've uploaded ChatGPT and all places I can watch movies or read books, Kindle, and or be on a fast. So I just am using that as I'm proud of myself, actually, to have turned this thing that I was dreading. Yeah, right. Is like, just be honest with me and not the shift from the blame to, all right, let me be creative. What can I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I commend you, because that's definitely a lot of angst that you brought to the table. It sounds a little bit like, Houston, we have a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Can we make something work out of this mess on the table? And you did. That's a great harmony example. Thanks for sharing.
You're very welcome. Thanks for inspiring me to share.
Anyone else have a story for chat, or you want to share with us of how you may have turned something into a harmonious situation, or what harmony means to you? I will share one other thing related to this, and it's a little off our topic, but nonetheless, there's a psychotherapist whose name is David Schwartz, and he talks about internal family systems and that we each have parts of ourselves. So one of the things that I've done recently, and in a group, I'm taking a class actually in our group, is said in a very simple way, there are lots of parts of me, right? From childhood and adulthood, lots of parts. How do I find harmony between and among those parts? I've now made that a definition, and many people in my group of 20 have made that their definition of harmony. And I'm not overlapping peace, harmony, and joy in that group, but I think that creates a nice illustration for you. If we've invested that time in the introspection and reflection, then we know that we can then share that with others by our being. That doesn't mean that we have to provide advice. We don't have to provide counseling, but our harmony within ourselves helps us have more harmony with others and helps us do a better job of asking questions that go below the surface of what are somebody's hobbies and interests and skills, and really appreciating a different perspective. And even if it's significantly different than your own, I have a mentor that says to me, every difference has a gift. So is that viewpoint, my first reaction may be this, like, how could you think that way? But what is that gift to me by knowing another perspective? Is it challenging my own thinking? Is it asking more questions? I mean, surely we all have friends and colleagues and team members that we disagree with, but we still have to work together, be together, live together. So harmony is the appreciation of those different perspectives and seeing if you can turn that over to find the shiny side where the gift is. And it also increases our understanding and empathy with others. I met somebody new this week who shared with me a story about his difficulties growing up. And very smart, educated, skilled, had good opportunities. But it was still so difficult for him. And I was so honored that he shared it with me because it helped me understand and empathize with him better. That the color of his skin impacted how people viewed him. And he was constantly code switching with his affinity groups of people of his race, as well as with others. He found a harmony with himself to be able to reconcile that. But growing up as a teenager and young adult, how difficult that was. Him sharing that with me helped me harmonize with him more and talk with him about some projects that we might work on together professionally. And if each of us weren't comfortable and about our own skills, we probably could not have gotten there. I'm very proud of the two of us of creating an environment of trust to be able to do that. I think that's essential. We consider a new way of thinking of 4 C's of harmony. It's just a mnemonic to help us remember as we're dealing and interacting with other people. And these aren't in any particular order. I happen to read right to left to right. My husband happens to read right to left. But for me, I would say communication, cooperation, compromise, and collaboration. And I'm going to give you, before I talk a little bit more about that, a disclaimer. I don't mean that this is backing down or laying down or being a people pleaser. This takes an effort to not understand the concepts. That's easy, but implementing them in exchanges is the tough part. So let's start with listening. This week is the National Week of Conversation, and I am so glad that the Listen First organization included us in their agenda for this week. There's lots of different places you could be right now, and you chose to be with us. And so I have learned a couple of things from Listen First that you may already know. It may be old school, but I do want to remind ourselves the element of communication that is often the weakest is that listening part, the receiving of information. We have to be curious and open to learning and understanding and accept people where they are and listen to understand. The opposite of that is listening to respond. My tough barrier is suspending judgment. And many of us who were brought up in the Northeast, I'm not going to put the blame on them, but I will tell you, I live in the Midwest now, and there's a lot of sort of passive aggressive conversations. When I lived in the Northeast, it was more direct. I happen to like that, but there was also a tinge of judgment in there. And so I'm working on how can I be direct? How can you be direct without having judgment, accepting everybody where they are, and expecting and extending grace if they're not a 10 today. And you'll get that by listening more and by getting lots of different perspectives. I was telling you that I had a role model for listening. You'll get a kick out of this a little bit. I think so. My uncle David Mudgett, when he was 7 or 8 years old, got spinal meningitis and lost his hearing. And he was deaf. And I love my Uncle David. My Uncle David could read lips and he could sign. And I learned a little bit of American Sign Language. Sometimes we wrote notes. He could speak. His voice was not much better than mine right now, and probably worse. But the one thing he did really well is listen. And I had to laugh at myself. The best listener in my life was a deaf man. And why is that? Is because he really had to look at me. He made not only eye contact, but of course was looking at my lips to read my lips. But I always felt like, even in a busy room, that he had these boundaries on either side. He was not going to let that distract him and get his attention. And when he was with you, he was listening and he would wait to respond. So I challenge myself, I challenge you to really think about your own listening skills. And can that, yeah,
Jay, can I share something?
please do.
I'll give you a little bit of a voice break too. So I attended a session earlier in the week. That was another session in the National Week of Conversation. And we had an exercise during that session where we paired off with one other person, totally random, somebody you'd never met before. And we had a listening exercise where we listened to something that the other person wanted to work on about themselves. And the intent was that you were very open. It was a very safe discussion, and you could talk about whatever you wanted. And then you repeated back to the person what you heard them say. But beyond that, you were invited to engage in a 30-day exercise to be an accountability buddy for that person. for what they want to work on about themselves. And so, you could follow up, you could have, follow-up phone calls, and I'm doing it with the person that I was paired with. And we had a call and talked about each other and what we want to work on. And we're going to have another call once a week, for the next 3 or 4 weeks. And it was an interesting exercise because I found myself listening in a very different way, because I was listening from the standpoint of trying to help somebody that I've never met before, realizing that they were going to try to help me as well. And it allowed me to do some of the things that you're talking about here: suspending judgment, extending grace, being curious and open to learning. What is it that they're working on that I can learn from about myself? And so it's an interesting exercise. It gives me also a feeling of purpose that I'm assisting somebody, even though I'm not helping them, telling them what to do. I'm helping them figure out what they want to do for themselves. So I just wanted to share that.
I think that's a great story. And what if we did that every time we had an exchange with somebody? On the surface, it seems so hard. You had an assignment, you followed your assignment, and it had really positive payoffs initially. And what if we did that every time? I think that's really the purpose of listening. And I wish I had invested more time in it earlier in my life. It makes me think a little bit about Donna Hicks' work with dignity. And I love her work. She has a book, Dignity, and another one, Leading with Dignity. Donna Hicks is a PhD out of Harvard who's done research on conflict resolution. But one of the first things that she talks about in listening is acknowledging people and recognizing people and giving them the benefit of a doubt. And your comments really triggered that too, Bob, that somebody acknowledged you, you acknowledge them. I like that. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to use that as something, as an example of gratitude. Somebody gave you that little gift for which you are grateful. And I use the word grateful and gratitude interchangeably. Science shows that it has a positive impact on your brain. And how do we know this? They did functional MRIs in the research on gratitude and gratefulness. And sure enough, people's brains lit up. And that's what we like. We like when it lights up. When we move away from the negative thinking and negative emotions, gratitude helps us in that journey. It starts with having the positive language and having the positive thoughts, even if it is a little fake it till you make it. That helps us in the world of gratitude. It works even if you don't say it out loud, even if you don't write it down, even if you just think it in your mind, that I am grateful for Bob sharing that story with me. And maybe I could have an accountability partner, and I have gratitude towards Bob. Even if I hadn't said it out loud, it has a lasting effect. Would anyone like to share their own thoughts about gratitude and gratefulness and the impact it might have had on you? I'll continue.
At the risk of repeating, I had said it earlier, gratitude and forgiveness for me. And I do it every day, Jane. And I'll be happy to be your accountability buddy. I love that. Yeah, because again, it's so easy to want more of anything, or other than what you have, right? More.
Right.
That I think is an easy conditioning that many of us can see. At least I say I can. And so gratitude gets me out of that other, and being so grateful. And I'll say that since I already shared about my trip, I'm just so grateful for my home. I just love my home, and was just grateful that I wasn't longing, for vacation,
Right.
to be at harmony. And I'll just add the forgiveness part. Oh goodness, again, we can have grievances against childhood and collective grievances. And I would say that too enables me to stay and let go of negative energy, right? That resentment and just let it go and say, I forgive. I forgive. So I will add the two together.
I appreciate that. And you may not have seen my notes in advance.
I would, Jane, I would also say that for me, like I think gratitude just a perception or perspective from which to see things that just shifts. There's a quote by Melody Beattie that I love. It's gratitude. It's a longer quote, but it ends with gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. And I think it's really hard to be happy without gratitude. I think to find, peace, harmony, or joy, you'd find it all with gratitude. Just it's that lens that because if I look at and if I apply any situation in my life or anything I'm experiencing, I can see what's missing or lacking or wrong or less than. And then if I look at it from a gratitude perspective, I could see all the positives. So it's just a matter of applying it and using it every day.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Well, and I so appreciate you sharing that and sharing that message with other people. Last week, somebody used the phrase in a discussion, a scarcity mindset that, there's just not enough. We need more, more, more. And, in capitalism, we want to sell more. We want to be more. We want to have more revenue. I mean, heck, our government looks at our consumption as a rate. We got to keep buying more to keep the economy.
Gross national product versus gross national happiness, right?
Yeah.
That's by the way, that's Bhutan's, the king of Bhutan, the last king of Bhutan, the father came up with that.
I had to cancel a trip. I canceled our
Oh.
trip to Bhutan this year.
Oh, I went in November. It's amazing. It's unbelievable.
Well,
talk it out.
You'll go.
I'll go someday. And
I have a great tour guide for you too, when you're ready.
offline, we'll get that. So yeah, I really appreciate you, Michelle.
And I think, I'm sorry.
Oh, go on, Bob.
I was just gonna say, I think Cindy had a comment.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, now, another form of gratitude too, which is a little bit more formal, I guess, is I went to Florida to visit my friends and family a few weeks ago and had such a marvelous time with them, with being wined and dined, so to speak. And I sent thank you cards to all of them. And they wrote back or texted back saying how much they appreciated getting something personal like that and knowing that I had such a wonderful time. So gratitude obviously can be expressed in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely. And, I think what we're collectively concluding is that I've never had a negative comment about gratitude I've expressed or thought. It's always appreciated when we share it, whether it's a thank you note or a phone call or person to person. And it does, even if we don't, and we have a little bit of that gratitude that we share ourselves. Some people have gratitude journals that lifts some of that heaviness of the world away and moves some of that heaviness of the world away, of that that thinking of lack of or not having enough. And so forgiveness.
I would also, I'll just express a quick gratitude.
Please do.
Thank you to Michelle, because the listening experience I mentioned earlier was from one of her sessions. So thank you for that offer. I'll also note, comment in the chat, feeling heard and understand is a gift of listening.
Yeah. They all go hand in hand. And it's not what I so appreciate, it's not common for us to be with people that really understand and have these skills. So it feels very warm and comfortable to be with people who have had some of these same experiences. So thank you.
Jane,
Yes.
this is Scott. I want to just throw in another word that makes it hard to have gratitude and even hard to have forgiveness. But to be aware of it, the word is expectations. And
Yeah.
I think I've actually seen the quote, expectations is the thief of joy. Whenever you have expectations, almost always they're not going to be met. And it's hard to have gratitude for something when you're not meeting something. And so everybody to be aware of expectations that you set on people, on yourself, because you're really going to be stacking it against yourself in terms of trying to have gratitude and being able to forgive people. I mean, if you expect them to be whatever, it's going to be hard for them ever to live up to that, and yourself. And so I just encourage you to be aware of that, because I think that is one of the number one things that takes peace, harmony, and joy away from people.
Right. Yeah, thank you for making that addition. So often we establish expectations also based on stereotypes, what we expect somebody to do or say. And we're making decisions, and we're creating opinions about them, but we're also making decisions about their behavior and what they'll say and do. And that sets you up for disappointment. So thanks for sharing. I think I may have a slide on that later, but moving on away from forgiveness, I think we have already seen some light in that we know this reduces stress. We know that it reduces depression. Right now, after the pandemic, we have a really high demand for mental health attention, and the idea of gratitude and forgiveness comes into improving our mental health and our self-esteem and reducing that toxic anger and moving that aside. And some of us also may need some professional help, facilitation from a mental health therapist to move on for that. However, some of this we may be able to do ourselves. So once we invest time of harmony with self and harmony with others, and being grateful for what we have and forgiving, move forward, I think it really opens up the space. When we say why make space for it, it opens up the space where we can create environments of trust where everyone can be their best, where we can surround ourselves with people that we can count on, because we have a better idea of their skills and their talents. And I want to share a story about a colleague of mine who went to work for a new company. And in their workspace, they did a number of things with teams. And on the first team meeting, and she was fairly new to the company, they did what they often do, is everybody has like a time to network and connect, and they talk about themselves and their background, and they also share these skills and their talents right up front, in context with the project that they were assigned to, so that it made it easier to assign people to different tasks within the project. And I thought, oh my God, I never had that kind of progressive thinking in a company that I work with teams. Often we struggled through that. So some of these skills can be used with families, with groups, with communities, with teams. And then that ripple effect is having respect for people and the planet, and being aware of some of our prejudices and biases that we carry with us, and trying to reduce those and better understand them, and appreciating that idea of diversity of thought and diversity of experiences. I mean, when you come back from Dubai, Michelle, there are some things you will think differently about. I don't know what they are, but having just been in a Muslim country of Egypt, I know that my thinking was reorganized and was very helpful. One of the reasons I travel is that it does open my brain. So when we bring all of this together, we really think about harmony in ourselves and understanding our own gifts, our own talents, that by listening and collaborating and encouraging with others, we can have more harmony with other people. And as we've said a number of times, that can have an impact on our community and our planet. And we put in planet because we really think that part of what's causing disharmony is lots of things happening in the economy or politics or global warming. So by having some of that settling from within and sharing that with others, we hope that an outgrowth is with larger groups on our own planet. So we know where you would like to be is a higher number. You don't have to share that with us, whatever your number was. I'm really delighted that some of you had such high numbers and made some really good contributions. So this is for your own notes of, can you creep up the list? Did you get a couple of tools to help you move up a little bit to reach for a higher number of harmony? We're really excited to share things about ourselves. The Peace, Harmony, Joy Alliance is an outgrowth of, as I mentioned, years of discussion, and now we have dozens of folks on our board working on projects to kick off what we do. And that is, we really try to provide some peace, harmony, and joy training to others. We especially want to get this to communities as well as companies and organizations. We want to partner with communities and cities so they can have peace, harmony, and joy within their city. And we want to align ourselves with other organizations that have similar or complementary missions to our own. So if you want to know more about us, go to peaceharmonyjoy.org. You can learn more about our training. We have a video wall and other things. And on tomorrow, our topic is joy. Joy and fun are really high on my list. So I am excited to share some of that with you. Any other closing questions or comments or feedback that you'd like to share? We have a few more minutes, so you can either open chat or say it out loud.
I actually have a question that goes back to an earlier slide, and I just didn't catch it, and I love what you share. You had 4 C's, and I don't remember I think it was communication, and I think it was compassion. Maybe it was compromise, but could you remind me what the 4 C's were?
Communication, collaboration, cooperation, and compromise.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love compassion. That's good too. Compassion, we might have to make it the 5 C's, Michelle. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
when you were talking about compromise, I see compromise for myself. I see it more as like acceptance of what is, somebody else's position. And I think one of the important points for me about acceptance is not resignation. So I'm not unhappy in acceptance. I'm not like resigning myself or, somehow suffering in any way. Anyway, that's how my perception of acceptance and compromise. So.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, because there are people who believe that acceptance is laying down, just giving up.
Right. Is resignation, which they confuse the two. They're confusing acceptance with resignation, and people aren't accustomed to being in full acceptance. It's a big leap for some people. So it was, you know, in the beginning, when I started studying 10 years ago, it also was a new concept, you know, just coming into acceptance with what is, right?
Right.
It's very challenging for people because everybody has that positionality. Even on the call yesterday, that other group, you know, was
Right.
they didn't exactly say this, but the point was made anyway.
It's interesting, that immediately reminds me of an interaction I had probably 30 years ago. And the conclusion was agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And I was very comfortable with agreeing to disagree acceptance. And they were very uncomfortable with it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, even people seeing agreeing to disagree, there's some edge to the agreement, you know, like
Right.
they're begrudgingly agreeing.
Right.
As
Right.
opposed to full acceptance of agreement.
Right.
There's a big difference. It's subtle, but it's huge.
I would call it on the way to harmony, but not harmony.
Yeah. Not going to get the harmony with that kind of,
Yeah, exactly.
not acceptance, really. I mean,
Yeah. Well, one of my phrases is on positive reinforcement is always to remember on the way to right, approximately right, making some right moves. Any other thoughts or questions that any of you have? Thank you so much for investing time today. I may be cured by tomorrow. I may still be froggy, but hopefully I'll see some of you and we'll talk about joy.
You did great, Jane.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Dana. I
Thank you,
hope
Jane.
feel-
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, everybody. Great job, and glad your voice hung in there, Jane.
Yes.
Did great.
Hope you feel better. And Ken, I sent you a direct message, by the way, in the chat.
Great. Good.
Oh,
Thank you,
okay.
Michelle.
Thank you so much. A real pleasure being with you.
Accountability partner.
Yes, would you like to?
I'll
Shall
get you offline. I'll get you offline.
Okay. Wonderful. That would be.
Thank you,
delightful.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.